Hello there, it's David Taylor, or Mr Pelargonium as people like to call me, back with another video blog for the Pelargonium and Geranium Society. I can't even say it. It's good to see you again. I'm back. We're just going to have a little review of where we are at this very tail end of February. So let's have a look to see where we are. Okay, well, it's great to see you again. I'm actually just about to disappear on holiday, basically, for the first 2 weeks of March. So I like to get a video out about once every 4 weeks. So I really wanted to get one done now. This is the tail end of March, filming this on Friday, the 28th of February, because I really want to get a video out to ensure that, it would be really towards the end of March before I could do another one. I didn't want to go 2 months. So I wanted you to have a look around the greenhouse just to see what's going on in this period, just as the spring starts to hit. Although it should be said that we had our first snowfall yesterday morning for the winter, at the very tail end of sort of the winter period, what you generally accept to be the winter period anyway. And I really wanted to show you, the plants as they are looking, they're really starting to green up now. You're beginning to see growth. Primarily, I think, because the days are getting much longer, because of the fact that the sun angle has really gone out now in the northern hemisphere. The sun is rising pretty much fully in the east and coming up over the greenhouse. So I'm getting good light in here now, probably 8 to 9 hours of good sort of sunlight in here now, and it really has made a difference to the plants. Okay, so let's have a little look round, because that's primarily what I'm going to do today. Now, the first thing is that I have completed my stopping. There wasn't a great deal to do actually, but I've actually got one more single zonal, which I stopped at 16 weeks, which was a week ago. It's 15 weeks this weekend, and that should be fine. 16 weeks for a single zonal is fine, and so I did that last one. This one's fairly fresh. You can probably have a look at it. It was this one here, so you can see the fresh cuts that were done on that one. Now the others, which were done 2-3 weeks ago, the doubles, they are just beginning to break now. You can see there's a nice bit of fresh growth just beginning to come through. And that's really where you want to be now at this stage of 15 weeks before. You want to get good growth. I mean, as the light gets stronger and I begin to really slightly up the feed, I'm at about 2/3 strength for liquid feeding now. The plants will really start to put on a good bit of growth. But we can see here's a dwarf. Just in here, you can see lots of fresh new growth coming from the stops that I've made. And they should come through really quickly now. They should grow quite fast. It is quite cool. Strangely, we seem to be having our coolest weather in the winter now, right at the tail end of our sort of normal winter time. But, it's one of those things that happens. This is why we always stop, of course, at various times to get a succession of plants if it does, if we do have a particularly cold spring. Now, a plant that I did do, this angel, I've been talking about this angel. This was one of Terry Jarvis's, who we unfortunately lost just over a year ago. This is one of his plants, and this was one of the last plants that I stopped. Angels are fine at 16 weeks. And the biggest problem with them is stopping every little stem, because on angels you get a huge number of little stems, and to clip every little one, does take a little bit of time. But I went over it with a fine tooth comb just to ensure that I'd nicked out the tip of every little stem, and I did that just over a week ago. I did cut back some of them which were a bit stronger growing. And you know that I'm hopeful that that will sort of grow quite nice and compact. The key thing to remember with angels is not to overfeed them. I will probably only feed that plant at every other watering because angels will get a lot of very sappy sort of thin stem growth if you overwater them. So it's important not to overwater angels. All the others, regals, zonals and that type can withstand, you know, pretty solid watering without getting too fleshy. But angels in particular do suffer from overfeeding. Now up here are my regals. They're really beginning to shoot because of course with my regals, I actually stopped these back in December. Everybody knows I've always had a bit of an issue with growing my regals and I do need to stop them really quite early. But we got, you know, loads of shoots really beginning to break through on these now, and regals will grow fast once the light really begins to get going in March. They've already started really greening up. For instance, here's a good example of one that's, I think this is one of my seedlings. Yes, it is. That one's got small salmon blooms on it. Nothing particularly special, but that's breaking. It's a nice compact plant and that's breaking very, very fast and very, very strongly now. And that will grow. The regals will really begin to put on a lot of growth in the coming couple of months. Is their main growth time before they begin to think about flowering. Now, something that you may have noticed is that under here, I had a lot of young regals that I took from cuttings last year, and they have all gone over to Fibrex Nursery. I'll talk a little bit more about Fibrex in a moment, but they've all been taken over for Fibrex to trial. They will probably trial them over a number of years just to see if they're anything different, anything better, or maybe have got really good growth habit that's really worth putting out in their catalogue and releasing as a new variety. So that's something. I got a good number of plants over to them in the last week, and yeah, we'll just have to see how they go and how they think that they grow on. Now looking down at my zonals, again, these are really beginning to bud through. These are 18 weeks, these are doubles, so these are stopped at 18 weeks. Lots of fresh growth. I think as much as anything, it is this new light. The light has really increased in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and everything has really begun to put on fresh, new growth. They really have, the chlorophyll has really started to hit through. So I have upped the feeding just to ensure. I've gone on to 2/3 strength of a liquid feed, and they are really going to show some growth now as the days get lighter. Now down here, an example of older plants that have basically just been completely ignored, because what I do in my old plants, I cut these back really, really hard. So hard that they really don't need any watering at all during the winter. But look at all this new growth just beginning to bud through. There's lots of fresh growth there, just beginning to break. This is quite a dark-leaved plant. This is Burns Country. It's a really beautiful sort of orangey red with a very dark leaf. It makes a great plant. I mean, technically it's just a dwarf, but I think you can get a really big plant of it, and it can look really good. Now I've got a little bit of room now because of the plants that I've taken over to Fibrex. I have got a little bit of room, but of course all of these plants are going to grow and spread out, and it's not going to be easy to sort of carry them through. They do need to spread, and that's the one problem with having plants at this time of year. You should really have about a half-empty greenhouse to ensure that your plants are going to fill it up, because they will fill it up as well. There's absolutely no doubting. Right, now it is the Pelargonium Geranium Society annual general meeting in 2 weeks on the 14th of March. It's being held at Pebworth Village Hall, which is over right next door to Fibrex Nursery. So if you're in the UK, particularly if you're in the southern half of the UK, have a think about getting over there, because you can pop into the nursery while you're there and have a good morning, perhaps browsing round before the AGM in the afternoon. There's always a good number of plants for sale in the hall. Members bring their plants along, and any donations just go back to the society. So it's worth having a go along there. It's a brilliant day out and really worthwhile going along. So if you're particularly if you're in the south of England, it's worth popping along. They're about 15 miles south of Stratford upon Avon. It's relatively straightforward to get to. The village is a little bit off the beaten track, but easily to find your way there if just look up their postcode. And while we're talking of Fibrex Nursery, should we just have a little look at their catalogue? It's something I've never done before, but I think it's worth having a look at. Fibrex produces brilliant catalogue every year. It's reprinted and redone every year. It covers the 4 main types of plant that they do, which largely is pelargoniums, but they also do ferns, they do begonias, and they do hedera or ivy, to give them their common name. But the catalogue is really good, so give them a call. I'm sure they'll send you one out, but it really is worth having a look. And you will also find, if you get one now, there is a little voucher inside just to tempt you, 10% off all mail orders over £20 until the end of March. The catalogue itself really is brilliant. You get a brilliant cataloguing of the, I hope this is going to focus, but it covers a good number, not all, but a good number of the plants they sell. On the first page, you've got the new releases that they're doing this year, including Shrivenham Crown, which is one of mine. And it covers all of the other main types of plant that they do. Some brilliant cross-referencing. I mean, this is a brilliant catalogue if you want to find out about some of the other types of plants. All of the different types of hedera that they do, or ivies, is really superb. And I don't mean ivy leaf pelargoniums in this case. This is hedera. That's why it gets a bit confusing sometimes. But brilliant catalogue, well worth a look. All in colour. Begonias as well, they've really got into in more recent years. Some absolutely fantastic begonia tubers that they sell off now. We are getting towards the end of the season when they sell out the tubers. So that is really worthwhile getting. Okay, so that's it from me today. I'll see you probably towards the end of March when we really begin to see how things are beginning to move and grow. But in the meantime, enjoy the start of spring. Hopefully we get some spring. And I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye for now. Please subscribe to this channel. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. You can follow Mr Pelargonium on both Twitter and Instagram under Mr Pelargonium. And you can follow the Pelargonium and Geranium Society on Facebook. Or you can visit the PAGS website at thepags.org.uk.